The movie begins by showing a clip where a doctor talks about one of her patients, Gabriel, who is getting stronger and more malicious day by day. Suddenly, security informs her that Gabriel has escaped. Lights start to flicker all over the hospital. Gabriel throws the doctors out. Security prepares the tranquilizer. The doctor orders security to tranquilize him, but security gets attacked. Finally, one doctor is able to tranquilize him. Gabriel is taken into a biohazard protection room and strapped to a chair. He takes control of the radio and threatens the doctors through it. The doctors finally realize that they couldn't help him and need to terminate him for good. That was a while ago. We now see present events. A pregnant mother is expecting her baby soon. We find out that she had a couple of miscarriages previously. During an argument, the husband pushes the wife and she gets hurt in the head. Later that night, the husband hears some weird noises. He goes to look and finds the mixer running. Suddenly, the refrigerator door opens on its own. He hears the TV running and it's switching between channels. He sees a figure who looks like his wife sitting on the couch. Suddenly, the TV shuts off and the figure disappears. Derek turns on the light, but nobody is sitting there. But it seems like something is sitting up from the sofa. Suddenly, a dark figure appears behind Derek and pushes his head. Same time, Madison wakes up from sleep and she goes downstairs to look for Derek. She finds Derek with his neck broken sideways and the figure lurking behind him. It comes towards Madison and chases after her. It breaks the door and throws her to the ground. The police arrive at the scene and they think this is a home invasion incident. The ME tells the detective that she has never seen something like that before. Madison wakes up in the hospital and finds out that the doctor couldn't save her baby. The ME finds an upside-down handprint on Derek's body. After 2 weeks, Madison comes back home. Later in the night, she notices the light outside the house is flickering. The light turns off and she sees the same figure standing under the light post. She rolls up the curtain and locks the door, but the backside door is open. She closes the door. A series of sounds come from the house, and the door cracks open automatically. She runs and locks herself in the bedroom. She thinks it's all in her head and nothing is out there. The next morning, she boards up the windows and reinforces the door lock. Madison reveals to her sister that she was adopted into their family. Meanwhile, a group of tourists in an underground tunnel experiences the same type of light flickering. Later, the guide hears a noise coming from the tunnels and goes to look. She is about to go outside, but hears the noise multiple times behind her back. She runs and plugs in the light switch. Suddenly, the light flickers and the dark figure jumps from the ceiling. The guide finds herself tied to a ceiling and the figure standing nearby. It talks through the radio and calls Dr. Weaver. It tells her the same sentence she said right before she ordered Gabriel to be terminated. Dr. Weaver opens up old patient files and confirms that it is Gabriel who called her. Meanwhile, at Madison's house, electricity continues to flicker. A figure runs right in front of her. Suddenly, Maddie sees Dr. Weaver behind the washing machine. Weaver asks her what she is doing in her house. Maddie moves back and finds herself stuck to the ground. The figure comes from behind and picks up Dr. Weaver. Suddenly, the environment around Maddie changes and she finds herself in a different room. A voice comes through the TV saying it's time to cut out the cancer. The figure throws Dr. Weaver toward a shelf. Weaver runs from there. The figure picks up an award trophy and strikes Dr. Weaver with it. Madison is witnessing all this in real time. Suddenly, she wakes up screaming in her own house. The police arrive at Dr. Weaver's house and determine that both murders are connected. The detective finds an old photo of one of Weaver's patients. Meanwhile, Gabriel brings back the award trophy and grinds it into a sharp knife-like object. Maddie hears about Dr. Weaver on TV and tells her sister Sydney that she somehow witnessed the murder happening and it's the same guy that attacked her before. She has no idea about how she was able to be present at Weaver's house and then come back to her own house. Meanwhile, the police are trying to determine the current age of the patient from the photo. A colleague of Dr. Weaver, Dr. Victor, is also experiencing unusual events. Water drops lead towards a room, and suddenly the light goes out. Victor turns the light on and nothing is there. Victor looks outside, and we now see the figure standing behind him. Meanwhile, Madison is sleeping in her house. Suddenly, she wakes up and sees herself in Victor's bed. She can't move and nobody can hear her. The environment changes, and the figure comes from behind her. It sits on top of Victor and stabs him. Maddie sees everything and then wakes up in her own bed. This time Madison goes to the police and tries to explain to them that she is somehow connected with the figure. She tells them about the recent victim and leads the police to the building. The police enter the apartment and see Victor lying on the bed. Maddie gives a description of the figure. In the bathroom, the light starts to flicker and Maddie gets a call from an unknown number. She picks up the call and the figure addresses her as Emily. The figure actually knows Maddie, aka Emily, and there is a connection between them. Gabriel says that he is coming after everyone that has experimented on him and locked him in the hospital. We find out that Maddie also knows Gabriel and they are connected somehow. The police are able to determine the age of the patient and realize that Maddie is the girl in the photo. Maddie asks her adoptive mother if she had siblings she didn't know about and asks her about Gabriel. As soon as her mother hears the name, her expression changes completely. Her mother shows her an old clip in which she was talking to someone invisible. When asked, she tells her parents that she was talking to Gabriel and that he is not an imaginary friend. Later, she was talking to Gabriel on the phone and he asked her to hurt the baby, but Maddie says she won't do it. From the video journals, the police find out about Emily May and the doctors involved in her treatment. Meanwhile, Maddie finds herself in one of the doctor's houses, and Gabriel also appears there. Detective Shaw arrives at Dr. John's house and finds him lying in the bathtub. Maddie is also there, and she tries to tell the detective that Gabriel is still there. Gabriel jumps on the detective and they fight each other. Shaw shoots him multiple times. Gabriel runs from there and jumps from a window. Shaw chases after him and enters the underground tunnels. Shaw is still following Gabriel and arrives at an old storage room. Gabriel again jumps on Shaw and escapes through a ceiling hole. The police conduct a hypnosis session with Maddie to find out about her past. She tells them that Gabriel has followed her to her new house and often does bad things while Maddie gets in trouble. Gabriel asks Maddie to bring a slice of cake to her mother, but when she is about to cut the cake, the environment around her changes, and she finds herself standing in her parents' bedroom with the knife in her hand. Maddie realizes the situation and drops the knife. Same time, present-day Maddie suffers from a seizure, and the hypnotist wakes her from hypnosis. Maddie tells them that, in the past also she experienced waking up in different places and seeing unusual things. She remembers that Gabriel wanted to hurt her baby sister. And Gabriel is the one who murdered the 3 doctors. Meanwhile, the tour guide from before frees herself from the ropes, but as soon as she moves, she falls through the attic and drops onto the lower floor. Everyone realizes that she was held hostage in the attic of Maddie's house. The police suspect Maddie and take her into custody. In the attic, they find the coat and the murder weapon Gabriel used. Maddie tells the police that Gabriel kidnapped the woman and planted the weapon. During interrogation, Maddie blows up the lights in the room. At the same time, Shaw receives a call from an unknown number. Gabriel is on the other end and says that he was nesting in Maddie's house all this time. Maddie's sister Sydney drives to the hospital where she was treated as a kid. The hospital building has been abandoned for a long time. Sydney enters the deserted building and looks for old records in the basement. Meanwhile, Maddie is sent to lockup. Sydney finds an old recorded video of Maddie's mother Serena. She became pregnant in her teenage years and gave birth to both Gabriel and Emily. Gabriel was an abomination. Serena is still alive, and she is the same woman that was held hostage in Maddie's attic. In the videos, Maddie tells the doctor that Gabriel tells her to do things and hurt other people. The doctor wakes up Gabriel, and as the camera moves, we see that Gabriel is attached to Maddie's back. Gabriel is a type of teratoma, and he is a parasitic twin that depends on Emily's body. Gabriel has access to Maddie's brain. The doctors tried to give Gabriel a shock, but he destroyed the machine. At lockup, Maddie is approached by other criminals. They push her around and kick her. Suddenly, the lights start flickering, and Maddie goes into a seizure. In the video, the doctors couldn't remove parts of Gabriel from Maddie without endangering her life because of his connection to her brain. Because of this, Gabriel is controlling Maddie all this time and making her believe that she is the one in control. At lockup, Gabriel comes out from the back of Maddie's head and now has full control of her body. Maddie walks backward and goes after everyone in lockup. An officer sees him, but Gabriel subdues him and takes the lockup keys. Sydney informs Detective Shaw that Gabriel has been inside Maddie all this time and controlling her like a puppet. When Derek pushed Maddie, she got hurt on the back of her head, and Gabriel woke up. Gabriel goes to the police station and looks for his weapon in the evidence locker. Suddenly, the light goes out and Gabriel comes after all the officers. He knocks out everyone in the building. At the hospital, Gabriel interferes with the guard's pacemaker and knocks him out. He then goes after Maddie's mother and Sydney. Maddie is present there like before, but unable to move. Her mother wakes up and asks for forgiveness for giving Gabriel up. Gabriel throws a bed on top of Sydney and torments her. Sydney addresses Maddie and says that Gabriel was feeding off her fetuses, which is why she had so many miscarriages. Gabriel shoots Sydney and comes after Serena. He blocks her airways, and we see the monitor flatline. Suddenly, we hear Maddie's voice, and the environment changes around Gabriel. Maddie appears in Gabriel's mind space and tells him that she can also do mind tricks on him. We now see that Sydney is unharmed. This time Gabriel is stuck and unable to move. Gabriel is now locked in a mental prison created by Maddie. Maddie wakes up and rescues Sydney. Serena is also alive. Actually, Maddie played a trick on Gabriel to make it seem like he were able to hurt them.